Welcome back to the GP Productions podcast. Okay, welcome back to the show. And today I've got a man that you may know as an artist. We're going to talk about some of his work. It's Mr. Tim Jacobus. How are you doing today, man?
I'm good, Maurice. I just saw your intro. You've had a lot of good people on this show.
Yeah, and that's an old intro that I kind of need to edit back. I've had I started this maybe 15 months ago.
So today, did somebody good not show up and you got stuck with me?
No, this was booked well in advance. Don't be so harsh on yourself. You hold a special place in pop culture history, which we'll get into in a while.
Oh, very cool. Thank you.
Yeah. So I suppose, like, as an artist, as a young man, how did this begin? Did it start as kind of a hobby for you? Or did you ever think you'd be working in this industry?
No. When I grew up, art was something that you did kind of on the side. My father worked for a pharmaceutical company. He was a manufacturer. So it wasn't like we had, art as a business in the family. And, we all liked to draw. My father was a pretty good artist, but we just did it just as a utility. And I really didn't discover art as a business until I was 18 years old. So I was a late coming to the idea or the concept that maybe I can do this for a living.
Yeah, and what clicked with you to make that decision?
So you get exposed to, in the U.S., you get exposed to art in art class when you're in high school, and most of it is very fine art based. You learn to paint, you learn how to do different mediums. And when I was a senior, I needed to fill up more of my schedule. And my guidance counselor said, hey, they've got this program down the street at another school, and it's commercial art. He goes, I don't really know what that means, but you may want to use that just to fill up your time. So join that class, and that's where art, the nuts and bolts of commercial art was presented to me, and it changed everything. I had already agreed to go to another college. I was going to do something else, and when I landed in this class, I was like, I got to change everything. And I ended up not going to that college and going to a more designated art school. So seeing art as a business, and the tools that you needed to use, and what's it take to take a piece of art and get it into production, that really just it just changed everything.
Yeah. Was it more so the digital side of things that you were, because technology was moving that way, was that something that you were keen to learn about in college?
So I'm old enough that there was no such thing as technology when I was in high school. My whole high school career and my whole art school career, digital was something that was maybe coming down the road, but everything I learned in both of those schools was traditional art. And even the first part of the during the 90s, when we did the Goosebumps covers, though, that still was all traditional art. The digital part of me learning digital and become acclimated to the digital world, that didn't happen until 2003 for me. It had been around for a little bit, but it didn't move its way into my business heavily until around then.
Yeah. And what's the main difference you think between obviously just pen, like a paintbrush, and making something to putting something out digitally? What's the
So
process?
there's the overall process. I'm glad I grew up when I grew up, because I'm glad I have a nice traditional art background as a base. And then once the digital tools came along, I was just applying what I already knew to using different tools. I think it's harder for young people who grow up in the digital world to stay down in that traditional world long enough to
Mm.
really hit your head against the wall, against the the difficulties that are in there. And so the process is still the same. Like when I approach a project now, I do kind of a hybrid. So back when I was doing the Goosebumps covers, it would be do thumbnail sketches, which are little scribbles, 1 inch by 2 inch, and those are just for me. No one's ever supposed to see them. They're the equivalent of writing bullet points down if you were going to create a story. You just want to just get the idea down and go, okay, I know what that one is. Go to the next one, go to the next one, and try to fill up a couple of pieces of paper worth, because it's easy to get hooked on a single idea early on in your thought process. And
Mm-hmm.
you should really hammer through them, because the secondary ideas and maybe those third ideas are ones that have a real lot of potential.
Mm.
So once I've done those thumbnail sketches, I'll pick, depending on who I'm working with. When we were doing Goosebumps covers, I did 3 sketches for each cover, and I drew them up probably 8.5 by 11 size. And I still do exactly that process today. All my original, I'm sitting outside the computer with a pencil and a piece of paper, and I draw the sketch until I get it the way I like it. In the 90s, that's when it would then go from that sketch, they would pick it, and then I would blow the sketch up, put it on a piece of illustration board, then start painting with acrylic paints and airbrush, where now I take that sketch and I'll scan it into the computer and I'll do all my rendering and coloring in there. So it's kind of it has a traditional feel. My digital work has a real traditional feel to it, even though it's rendered and colored inside the computer.
Yeah, and you're still kind of keeping your style then, but by implementing stuff that you learned back in the day as well.
Exactly, because as great as the tools are, and they get better and better every day, the feel of a pencil on paper is still a unique thing. Where I have tablets with styluses, and you move your hand in the same way, but it's a different feel. And whether it's because I got comfortable doing that all those years ago, or if it really is there's something unique about a wooden pencil with with graphite in it on a piece of paper, or maybe the tools haven't quite caught up yet. Maybe someday someone will have something that is exactly the same, but right now I haven't found that.
Yeah, you keep the kind of authenticity, I suppose, of your work like that by putting it down on pen and paper first, like so to speak.
Especially because I kind of have a look. People recognize that Goosebumps style, and if I do pieces where I get away from that, and I may approach it different, but using that technique really helps me stay in that zone.
It's a very authentic style, and like I've got a piece here that I think it was before Goosebumps as well. But if you look at this though, because the style that you have, you can kind of see like Goosebump elements in there, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah, you can't get too far away from yourself. Like there's very few pieces where you go, I don't see any of my style in there. There's somewhere I've really worked hard to get away from it, but especially in that particular piece, that was a number of years before the Goosebumps stuff came along, and I was still experimenting and learning my techniques. at that time. And but yeah, there's always that little bit of people who know my work and family members go, oh, some more of those Tim trees over there in the corner. Those trees look very familiar. So it's like, hey, I get comfortable doing them.
And how would you describe your style?
It's the Goosebumps style is kind of it's got a cartoon element in it, but it's not cartoon-ish. There's realism to it, and the distortion is something that we really leaned into with the Goosebumps stuff. So it's hard to, other than saying it's there's a light feel to it, but it's approachable. So that's a weird word.
It transcends kind of into the product
so when
itself.
I was growing up, there were artists that I followed who were so, even today, their style was so far above what I could do or what I could imagine I could do, where my work's a couple of notches down from there. So even you as a kid could look at it and go, oh, that's cool. I'm going to try to draw that again, in my notebook at school. And so it that's what I meant by approachable. It's not so, again, I have a couple of friends who I went to art school with who are still out there producing, and the stuff I see them do, I'm still not sure. I don't know how they do it. And, I've been doing it as long as them, and I think I know all the tricks. But, some of them they've got a couple I don't know.
Yeah. And how did you become involved with the Goosebumps project initially?
I had worked with Scholastic Books, who is the publisher of Goosebumps, and I had worked with them for a couple of years, 2-3 years, maybe 4. And I had done a number of covers for them. Nothing in series, but one-offs. Do the cover, you're done. Wait, then another one would come up, and you'd get to do the cover for them. And I did quite a number of covers for them. And I had proved myself to be, responsible, consistent, dependable. And so I think when Goosebumps came along and I wasn't busy, I was a likely candidate.
Yeah, it reminds me, it's strange on this podcast when I talk to people that that kind of influence, maybe not influence, but that are part of my childhood, really. Because I can remember going to, in the school, we didn't have a library. Like I said, I'm from a very small place, okay? So we used to have this library that would drive to the school, like a mobile library.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
and I used to go on, and we used to look for, right, what Goosebumps books can we get now? And we could always see them from a mile away because of the colors and the art on the covers,
Yeah, and that was, that was the idea, was to get your attention, get you to pick it up. That's the whole thing with being a cover artist. If most times you see books, they're on bookshelves or in bookstores, and you're competing with a whole bunch of other artwork that's there. So you have to make yours stand up, and I got to get you to pick that up. If I can get you to touch it and pick it up, there's a real good chance that's going home with you.
Yeah. And what do you think it is that even to this day, it's still popular? What do you think it is that resonates with people over this franchise? Because it could be people like me that are kind of look at it from a nostalgic point of view, and then obviously the TV helped probably with the books as well. Do you think?
Yeah, right now there's a huge nostalgia thing, and your attraction to it really is based on you growing up with them and them being a part of a specific point in time. There's another generation of kids coming up, and it's a lot of people not unlike yourself who have kids, and they introduce them to them because they thought they were cool. So I have to say, though, I don't know what the special sauce is. I don't know what made them so popular. Again, there's this, Malcolm Gladwell did this book called Outliers, and it's one of those things where, yes, I was prepared and RL was prepared to do what we do, but there also was that element of being in the right place and being there at the right time, where if Goosebumps never happened and RL and I were doing it today, I don't know if it would have, it would have that impact. Would it be popular? Maybe, maybe not. Or would it be as big though? Probably not. Just due to the diversity of all the other things that you can do now. In the 90s, you weren't on social media. There was only 3 channels on the television set. You had limited distraction. Video games were crap. So books were big. So we had a more concentrated, attentive audience.
Yeah. Here's one of my favorite characters, Slappy. And I tell you what it was about him was, I always kind of got to see horror movies that I wasn't supposed to see, as we all did back in the day. And I remember seeing Chucky, Child's Play when I was really, really young, and I wasn't really supposed to be watching it. So when I seen this guy pop up on the telly, that kind of, I suppose, resonated with me as well as a character,
Yeah, the ventriloquist dummy is naturally not right. There's something, even a normal one doesn't look right, and it's just a weird thing. And then to just take it and twist it up and give it an evil personality, that's a tried and true formula right there. And Slappy is he is the spokesman. He is the icon of the series.
Yeah, he really stands out there.
Yeah, and I would have never seen that coming. Right at the beginning when we were doing it, I was like, yeah, this is a fun story, but did I think it was gonna be the one? Definitely not. Definitely not.
And what did you think as I don't know if you got to work with any of the TV stuff, did you?
No, I got to watch the TV stuff.
Yeah. And what did you think of the TV shows?
They were producing it up in Canada. It was its own entity. I was a fan because I liked seeing what they would do with my art and what they could do. They were on a real limited budget, so there were times where the art and the TV show were, they were right in sync. And then there were other times where they just had to bail out because I had concocted something that would have cost them $2 million in special effects, and there weren't special effects back then. So and then that made me like them more because they were doing their own spin on the work that I had done. So I have to say I like watching them now more than then, just because now there's the nostalgia element to it, and you go, oh yeah, look at the clothes, look at the cars, look at the limited budget. The whole thing becomes more entertaining.
Yeah, and I see online that you get to do some convention work.
Yeah,
what's that like, being out in the ground and meeting the fans in person?
It's a blast because as an illustrator or as a writer, it's a sit at home and lock yourself in and do your job, and you don't that it's not like being a DJ or a musician, or where your job is to be out and perform it. It's it's a solitary thing, and so I spent I only started doing cons maybe 3-4 years ago, and to meet people face to face, I was caught off guard with the how much how genuine everybody was in their appreciation for the series, and how they still appreciate it now, even though you guys are adults. And it's real fun to meet people and see them all still smile. I've said this before, but not everything that you thought was cool when you were 12 years old is still cool today. And my stuff could have fit into that slot. You could have just rolled your eyes and go, yeah. I remember that. That was fine when I was a kid, but it's not cool now. And the fact that I'm talking to you, people still think it's cool. There's a book out now with the Goosebumps art in it. That still blows my mind. We should have long forgot about this, and I should be just sitting here having a beer on a typical Friday and not having a conversation with you.
Yeah, but there's a real loyalty factor, because I talk to a lot of people on this show that are maybe involved in horror or wrestling or different things, and they're all in the convention world. But me and you talking about conventions, we know about them, that's cool. But there's a whole ton of maybe 80% of the population don't even know what a convention is. It's like the biggest hidden gem ever.
I was invited to be part of a convention, and that was my first convention. And I had a preconceived notion of what I was getting myself into. And when I got there, I had some of it right, but a lot of it I didn't. And it's a real, interesting social event. And even friends of mine who aren't into comic books or wrestling or any of that, I go, you should really go once. You should really, take your kid, give it a go, and just experience it, because it's a good time.
Okay, I got a convention question. What's the funniest or strangest thing you've ever seen at a convention?
Oh boy. You see, that's a real tough question.
It is,
because your problem is whiplash while you're in your booth. Your head snapping from one thing to another, from the way people are dressed. I think it's and I'm not. I don't mean this in a prudish way or anything. I'm always surprised at how little clothes some people have on when they come to where I'm just going, wow, that's and I'm there and I have a sweatshirt on and I'm going, it's kind of cold in here too, and you barely have anything on. So no.
That's what they have a name for that. It's called cosplay. I think is what they call it.
Cosplay. But then on the other end of that cosplay, I mean, not that that's a bad thing, but I've seen some unbelievably well constructed, homemade costumes where you go, oh my God, there's thousands of hours of effort in that, and you've spent probably hundreds of dollars to get that costume just that way. And the creativity is crazy, and they're all just doing it just for the fun of it. Very few cosplay people are making a living or getting paid at all. They're just doing it for the sheer joy of it. So it's a real art form.
Yeah. Can we talk about your website and your studios and kind of what you're up to at the moment?
Sure. So my studio is in my house. We're in the downstairs. I do a couple of different things. I'm an art director for a small studio, and then I always have an illustration project on the board going at all times. I just finished up an album cover. I can't talk too much about it because it's not out. So
okay.
I can't tip the hand of
Can you give us a genre?
It's heavy metal. It's dark too. I think I'm allowed to say this. It's the songs are all about serial killers. Every song is about a specific famous serial killer. So the art reflects that. It's something a little darker than what I usually do. And it came out, I like it. I think I like it because it's a little bit off the, it's a little bit, it's grown-up Goosebumps.
Mm-hmm. I think I may know what this is, but I'm not going to say it.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, we'll talk afterwards. I don't want to get anyone in trouble.
Yeah. Again, it's their surprise. I don't want to step all over it because a lot of times my artwork is something gets done early and they're still mixing, they're still pressing vinyl, they're still, there's a lot of other steps before it actually comes out and hits. So, but yeah, that, and then I do have my website. The thing that I always like to talk about is you can get Goosebumps prints. Sorry, I don't usually ship outside the United States just because it's so expensive. And
you're kind of doubling your prices, really.
Yeah, and it breaks my heart. I don't want you to, I want you to get it like everybody else does for just a couple of dollars. And like you say, it will double your price. But yeah, I have Goosebumps prints available. And during the pandemic, we started to notice that, we were lucky. My business wasn't interrupted very much, but there were a lot of people who have problems. Now with everything else going on, these problems have not gone away. And so what we do is we take $10 from every sale of every poster. Actually, it's every job I sell because it's easier to do the math. And we buy food and we donate it to the local food bank. So I got a shipment upstairs that's ready to go. We do it once a month. We bring it over, and my son and I do it. So 100% of the money goes to purchasing food. We don't hand over the money. We buy the food itself. It gets shipped here to the house, and then we drive it down the street. So it's something, we're not setting the world on fire with with what we're doing, but it's one of those things that you do that, I'm probably getting the most out of it as anybody else. I feel like I'm at least doing something.
Yeah, it's really good. And it's obviously, as you touched on there, it's been a crazy kind of few years in the world, and with what's going on now, and I don't really want to get into it,
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, that's another podcast.
That's another podcast. We'll probably get cancelled on YouTube if we start talking about that stuff.
Exactly.
I seen this on your website as well, and this is really cool, man.
Thanks,
Joe Dante.
Yeah, that was a fun project. They reached out to me and said that they were going to do that celebration piece. I had to do my homework and go, oh yeah, let me figure out which movies we need to cover and kind of get them all in there together. So and I like the color of that one. I don't do a lot of do a lot of greens, and that one it definitely flushed out. So and
a lot of iconic characters in there.
Yeah, and it's one of those ones where you keep looking and you go, oh, I didn't see that little guy, crawling up the side of the desk until you hang out for a little bit longer and take a look around.
Yeah, Tim, it was an absolute pleasure to talk to you today, man, and I wish you all the best with everything.
Thank you. Thanks for reaching out. Good luck to you on your trip, and keep us all posted.
I'll have a Jameson for you.
That sounds good. I will do the same.
Thanks, man.
for you.
Thanks.
All right.